Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for April 18th, 2024. Well, yesterday, just another kind of fizzle on the day. Still no relief rally, but let's take a look at what happened overnight and see if we can maybe get something going today. First off, we had Asian markets down across, up across the board last night. So looking pretty good, seeing a little bit of bullishness now. European markets are up across the board this morning. I will say the DAX has kind of been fluctuating between, positive and negative here this morning, but green across the board here at the moment. U.S. futures green across the board and increasing like we've seen pretty much every day. Pump it, pump it, pump it into the open. We'll see if today it holds, but we've been increasing since I've been up this morning, kind of keeping an eye on things and preparing for the morning prep. If we take a look at oil this morning, oil is a little bit lower. We've got oil futures down 93 cents and Brent is down 97 cents. And there was a pretty good fall yesterday in oil, so relieving some of that pressure. We actually have Brent crude now at 86.33, so significantly lower. We've been up over $90 a barrel here recently. And then, of course, the U.S. has reimposed a Venezuela oil sanction, so that could have some impacts on those oil prices as well. We'll want to watch that. Natural gas is up 4 cents this morning. If we take a look across precious metals, well, we've got gold going back up again this morning, up $9 an ounce. Silver up this morning. Copper up slightly this morning. Platinum is just a little bit lower, but palladium is moving up this morning. If we take a look at our cryptos, well, crypto had a really rough day yesterday, in Bitcoin anyway, down over $2,000 an ounce. But this morning we're pushing back up $580 an ounce at the moment. Now, if we take a look at our bond yields, our bond yields are one of the reasons we're getting a little bit of help here at the moment. The 2-year bond has come down just a little bit to 4.92. The 10-year bond has come down to 4.57, and the 30-year bond has come down to 4.69%. So a little bit of easing going on in the bond market. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Hey, I wanted to say something. I had a comment yesterday that was a request that during that first section of the prep video, all you're looking at is the diamonds chart, and I understand that, and I just want you to know that I'm just reading through ticker symbols in a brokerage account, just reading through ticker symbols when I'm going over those numbers. So it's not really exciting to show that. So I apologize if that seems a little bit on the boring side. Maybe I'll see if I can come up with a way to improve that just a little bit, but just to let you know. Let's take a look at some of these charts and see if we can gain some information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, let's get rid of that bias. Let's look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be, and see if we can make some decisions about how we would want to approach the market today in these market conditions. So first off, let's take a look at what we've got going on here in the diamonds. And clearly we have been struggling quite a bit here in this move. And what I think is notable at this moment is that we're just resting. We're resting underneath this resistance, but we're still holding on to this support area in the chart. And we'll have to keep a pretty close eye on that, because I think the longer we linger in this range, we run that risk that we come into another we come into another problem where we could dip and fall below our trend line here in the chart. Now, you could also say the longer we rest here, we run that opportunity that we could get some good bullish news and pop us up, and I'm going to have to agree with that as well. But because we're in this downtrend, we're going to have to be a little bit cautious and careful as we really gear up here on earnings. We've been seeing quite a mix in data and quite a mix in the responses to that data, so be careful. So that being said, if the bears were to find inspiration today, well, you can see we're sitting right here on this price support, and we're still underneath that downtrend. So if we were to continue to see selling and we push down below this area, well, the next area of price support would be down in here. You could see there might be a reason we might catch some little tiny bit of support here in the middle of that range, but I would say that next level down is somewhere in here. And then if we break through that, I want you to notice there is a pretty big fall that could come in the diamonds, pushing us sharply lower here in the chart. Now, if the bulls were to find inspiration here for today, well, first off, we need a test of this resistance up here to see if we can break through. So pushing up in here, pushing up against that downtrend, kind of that little double whammy area here in the chart. If we could break through there, then I think we're moving up into this zone of the chart. See if we can kind of overcome that big black candle here in the diamonds. Pushing up beyond that, we come into some major resistance areas of the chart, and unfortunately we're also going to come into some major resistance areas of the moving averages. And you can see here on our moving averages we have that 50-day moving average starting to roll over, so we'll want to be watching that closely as we push up into those higher levels of the charts. If we take a look at our SPY, well, doggone it, it dropped and fell below this area of price support yesterday. We did bounce back just a little bit. Tech was really struggling yesterday. Those tech giants were having trouble. So where's that next area of support? Well, I'm just going to take this line and drag it down, and I'm going to show you probably right in here is how we caught that support, right off of that little area right there. That's not a very strong support, but if we can hold in this area and bounce back up, we could be in good shape. But if those bears were to find inspiration pushing us down below this area, well, I'm going to suggest down here would be that next little area to catch some support. Beyond that, we're probably down here to try and catch a little bit of support. And then breaking down through there, well, it gets pretty big. We could run into some bigger selling if we were to push down below that area. Now, if the bulls find inspiration today and can push us back up, well, a retest of this resistance in the chart is going to be the first test. Can we break back up through there in our chart? And then pushing higher, well, you can see we need to break out of that little top of those two candles right there to push on through into this next level. And if we can get up through there, then maybe we'll be coming up and testing this area of the chart. And of course, right in this area, we're going to be running into those moving averages here as a resistance level and that possible downtrend. So keep an eye on that as we start to push up into this area. We're going to run into pretty big moving average resistance areas. If we take a look at our QQQ led us down yesterday as big tech ran into some trouble. And as you can see, pushed on lower here in the chart. And once again, I'm just going to move this line down here, and I'm going to show you where we came into catching a little bit of rest. And you'll notice right in here, there is just not much in quality support in there. It's a pretty choppy area, but if we were to see bears continue to find inspiration, well, we might look right across here. we might catch a little bit of price support right through there. And if they push down below that area, well, you can see that possibility that we come down into here, and then we really come into some major pressure down into maybe a better quality area price support in the chart down in here. If the bulls find that inspiration today, then pushing back up to retest this resistance looks like the most likely case. Pushing beyond that, I think we're coming up into this area, and as we push through into these areas, we're running into some really big price resistance in the chart as we push into these multi-levels of congestion in the chart. And then of course that downtrend that we have in here. Now this downtrend is very flat, and it's possible on the next rally back up we would set more of a normal downtrend in here if we find a lower high in a resistance area in the chart there. So watch that carefully. And then if we look at our Russell IWM broke down below this sloping trend line here in the chart and pushed on down, and you can see if I drag this down in here, we found a little bit of price support right in this area, kind of floating in midair. Honestly, if you look right there, there's not a real good key area of support, but it's not bad right through this area here where it's holding on. If we were to find some bearish inspiration today, then I think there's every reason to believe we could push down into this next area of price support. Comes all the way over into here. Let me shrink that chart up, and you can see there's additional areas in there. And then of course, if that doesn't hold, then I would say we're coming down, and we may test this bottom side, this area right in here of that chart, and beyond that we're coming back into this area in the IWM. Now looking at the bullish side of this, if we can get that bullish bounce, well, first off we need to see if we can test this area right in here, see if we can bust back through that area of the chart, and then beyond that a little bit higher right through here. And then of course, as we push a little bit higher than that, we're going to run into this downtrend in a pretty substantial resistance area in the chart. So keep an eye on those areas. And remember, IWM is also well below its 50-day moving average. As a matter of fact, it could easily have a date with the 200-day moving average here if we push much lower in IWM. And I would have to say kind of the same thing on the diamonds. If we start pushing much lower, we might get that that 200-day moving average tugging and pulling pretty hard if we drop much more here in the Dow. So let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX at the end of the day kind of ended up with just a spinning top doji here just below this big downtrend in the chart. So at least we eased up a little bit here on that pressure in the market, but you'll want to watch and recognize we're still maintaining that upside trend. It is a steep trend, and it probably needs a little bit of rest and pullback. We are in an oversold condition at the moment, so any rest or consolidation in here that pulls us back and rests, if we look right in here, rest pulling back into here would help a lot relieve some of that oversold pressure. If we were to push down even further, coming down into here, which I think is very possible depending on how earnings roll out. So watch those areas carefully in the chart. We need some relief here in the market, and let me show you where that shows most clearly, and that is in our T2122. Our T2122 indicator, boy, we're dragging ourselves along the bottom of the ocean here, scraping our belly here, and doggone it, we just can't seem to get a whole lot of momentum for any upside move, and we continue to see those bond yields holding up stronger than we'd like them to be. Concerned about tensions and geopolitically, concerned about what the Fed might be doing with rate cuts, and concerned about how we've been getting quite a bit of mix of data here in these earnings reports. So just a little bit of uncertainty here. Now, at one point yesterday, this T2122 did push up first thing in the morning. We pushed up, and like we've seen virtually every day here recently, is we pump up the pre-market, we gap up, and then immediately they're selling. So you'll want to be kind of careful with these gaps because we're seeing lots of whipsaws and lots of pressure here, and folks are probably losing considerable amount of money on these big whips that we're catching in the market. So just take note of that and be really careful here. If we can find bullish inspiration, well, we've certainly got plenty of upside opportunity to relieve some of that pressure if we can get something to inspire those bulls to the upside, and very little downside unless we were to really get something ugly in the chart. We could still have those big point moves to the downside, but I'm really favoring that upside move here, that we should start seeing some kind of relief rally here soon in the market. So watch that carefully. And if we take a look at our T2108, our T2108 continued to sink yesterday. At one point in time, we were turning up in the morning. We'd turned up, and then we started to flatten out. Just couldn't hold on to it. Only 21% of the stocks, 21.5% of the stocks holding above their 40-day moving average. We're pushing back down toward these low areas. Again, very oversold. I favor a relief rally bounce of some kind, maybe bringing us up to some of these resistance levels here in the chart. And then we'll have to question whether or not we have enough energy to keep pushing higher or not. And then if we look at our T2107, T2107 also continuing to pull back. Notice that we did fall below that kind of psychological level of 50% of our stocks below their 200-day moving average. So again, a little bit oversold in the short term, and a rally back up would be very nice here. If we continue to fall, then we do have some additional areas of price support down in here that could catch us. And then our T2101, there's also maybe just a little bit of hope here in T2101, and that is just an ever so slight tip. We were a little bit more hooked yesterday before we went into the close. We were just a little hook over here, suggesting that the momentum for the downside move was fading. But then, going into the end of the day, we kind of stretched that back straight up here. So keep an eye on that. The breadth of the market has definitely been with the bears here, and we need to see that starting to ease up as well if we're going to get a relief rally in these charts in the market. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, we've got some data here that certainly can be the market moving, and that would be those jobless claims. Jobless claims have been very, very strong, continue to be hot. This is not helping out the Fed. It's certainly encouraging the market a lot to continue to press and press and press to the upside, but this is one of those things where we're seeing that inflation problem not going away or abating like we'd like to see. So we really need to see these start coming up, but the consensus is suggesting a very, very modest increase at the moment, up 215,000. So we'll want to watch that carefully, and it is possible, like last time, the number came in hot with substantial declines, 11,000 declines in initial claims. So we need to see that going the other way, and I know that's a crummy thing to say for folks that will be put on the unemployment line, but that's going to help the Fed a lot in lowering rates. So watch that closely here today. And then beyond that, we've got a Philly Fed manufacturing coming in for consensus. They're suggesting 0.0. Prior was 3.2, so they're suggesting manufacturing back on the decline here. We'll want to watch that carefully because some of the other numbers we have seen on manufacturing would suggest that this might even come in lower. So watch that close today. We've got more Fed speak. Who'd have guessed? Bauman, Williams will be speaking this morning. We've got existing home sales numbers. They're looking at those declining pretty sharply here to 4.18 million from 4.38. So watch that carefully. And then leading indicators, they're looking again at a 0.0, just a little bit of a decline over that 0.1. And beyond that, natural gas, Bostic will be speaking, and then we come down here to some bond auctions, a Fed balance sheet, and then Bostic will be speaking again after the bell. Friday, we'll get some major relief here in our economic calendar. We've got Goolsbee speaking and a Baker Hughes rig count. So maybe we're going to wait till Friday to get a little relief. We'll have to wait and see. Watch that carefully here. If we take a look at our earnings calendar here for today, we do have a larger number of earnings, and we have kind of one of those pseudo-tech stocks this afternoon that there's probably some pretty high anticipation on. First off, let's take a look at what we have going on this morning. We're going to hear from Alaska Airlines here today. Keep an eye on that. Obviously, we've been seeing airlines moving up a little bit after the UAL report, so I would keep an eye on that one. We have Ali Financial, more of the regional banks reporting. Watch those because, well, there is some concern in those regional banks, so watch those carefully. We've got APOG, BMI. We've got BX, Blackstone, we've got CMA, we've got DR Horton that will be reporting. GPC will be in there, HOMB, IRDM. We've got Key Corp will be reporting, MAN, Power, MMC. We've got the old Snap-on tools here. Ouch. That's a little bit of a downside move there. And TCBI also reporting here this morning. So those are the notables for this morning. This afternoon, well, we're going to looking, I said, kind of a pseudo-tech. There we go, if I can type right. There, I'll get it. Netflix will be reporting this afternoon. We've got GBCI, we've got PPG, and we've got WAL reporting this afternoon. So, and we really drop off on earnings on Friday. Not much happening in there on earnings. There are a handful. So a little bit of a drop off on those. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, make sure and click that subscribe button, and then also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos useful and helpful, if you could do me that favor, and that would be click the thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Remember, guys, it helps a lot too if you grab that video link and you share it on your social media feeds. That helps a lot. Your Facebook groups, that helps an awful lot. Thank you so much to everyone who does do that. And then also for those of you who support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video. And thank you. Big shout out to you folks that help out that way. I truly, truly appreciate it. Remember, even an emoji counts. You don't have to write a big, long, lengthy thing. But if you have questions or suggestions, please feel free to put them in that comment section. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up. And remember, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. Do your own due diligence. Follow your trading plan and your risk tolerances. never ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. Well, I'm going to start off here with TSM this morning. TSM was one I was watching for a potential bullish move, and then they reported some earnings here, and they beat estimates, but we're not looking so good here in the pre-market. Possible bearish engulfing. We'll see if they can pick that up. Something apparently said in the conference call that made them not so happy. So watch carefully with that little bit of resistance. We're seeing some of this tech running into trouble in these charts. So watch this support level. If we were to break down through there, well, we might start slipping into more of a decline here in TSM. And I'm seeing some of those semiconductors sectors of the market continuing to show that weakness. And it's not a major weakness, but we're seeing that fade moving in here. Sorry, that changed the tool on me. But we're seeing that fade to the downside. And obviously, well, not that it's terrible, but it is a little bit uncomfortable to see, because we've been counting on this tech to hold the market up, and now we're seeing that drift, that little bit of fade starting to happen on semiconductors. Let's take a look at some other areas of the market, and still staying in big tech. Microsoft tried to make a move up yesterday, ended up with a bearish engulfing candle pushing to the downside. And what's important about that is we have really kind of confirmed a break of support here in Microsoft. And even though it continues to receive upgrades, and they keep talking how great it is, and I do believe there's nothing wrong with the company, just that little bit of overbought worry here in the market starting to fade. And you can see that we're going to be coming into these earnings reports on Microsoft will be coming in next Thursday. So kind of keep that in mind. It's just, I think, that little bit of concern or worry heading into earnings. Amazon fading back just a little bit. No particular concern there just yet, but again, just seeing a little bit of that tech fade. That won't be until the 30th, or a week from next Tuesday. So watch carefully there. If we take a look at Google has been handling this sell-off like a champ, not moving down at all, just kind of resting here in this support area of the chart. So I would watch this one here for that possibility, holding right in here, that this could move on higher. Can't say the same about AMD. AMD, as I continued to say, was looking short to me. We continue to follow this downtrend here, and yesterday got that substantial move down, and I think there's a pretty good chance we come a little bit lower here in the AMD. And you'll want to make mention that we failed our 50-day moving average up here, and ultimately we might be headed to the 200-day moving average here on AMD. So there is some tech issues out here that we'll want to be watching, and certainly there are some short trades to be made. And one of the things I want to remind you guys is all four of our indexes are in a downtrend, and one of the things I see right now is everyone is just looking for bullish upside trades. And I got to tell you, the profit that folks have been making in right way options has been mostly to the downside. And taking a look at some of these inverse ETFs. Now, we do need a relief rally, and we do need these to pull back, but notice we have these rounding bottom, what we call a rounded bottom breakout patterns, in so many of these inverse ETFs. There's a nice little pattern starting to develop there on SQQ. Now, this is a leveraged ETF. You could go with PSQ in here for a one-for-one. On the QQQ if you don't want that much leverage, but a beautiful rounded bottom breakout happening here. Probably needs a little bit of rest, just in that same way that we look at those charts. We like that breakthrough, that rest back, and then we look for that next opportunity in those stocks. And you can take a look at RWM. If you were looking in the Russell, that's clearly in a strong move to the upside, probably needs a little bit of rest. You could also look at TZA if you like leverage on that. And then taking a look, you've got DOG for the diamonds. We're in a pretty strong upside move here on that round of bottom breakout, and you can see that 50-day moving average starting to turn up. Any rest or pullback in there could set up a more upside opportunity in some of those inverses. And then of course we've got like SH. This is just a one buy short on the S&P 500, breaking through that 50-day. Any rest or pullback in here sets up an opportunity for those moves to the upside. And we can see, we made some really nice money here in right way options on SARK. SARK really surging up. This is an inverse on ARK. Obviously they're moving down, but you'll want to watch some of these inverse plays. They're cheaper, and they may be a great way to manage your trading if you don't want to trade short the market or picking up puts. This is a good way to pick up some good energy for those short trades. So remember, I'm still thinking we're going to get a relief rally here in the market, so just be careful chasing these at the moment. Rest or pullback sets up the next opportunity in those positions. Let's take a look at TEVA. TEVA, this is one that has just been a gorgeous upside trend, but we can see that fade that's happened now. We've slipped below our 50-day moving average. Any rally back now that fails underneath that 50-day, I would suggest has that opportunity to continue on lower. So keep an eye on that. Qualcomm, been watching this closely in the chart. It had held up and just recently slipping down. We're testing that 50-day moving average here. I would look for a little bit of relief bounce, but as we relief back up, we come back up into these resistance areas. I might watch for that next lower high to come into the chart there on Qualcomm. So watch that carefully. Now, there are bullish trades out there still holding up in the market, but be kind of careful chasing everything bullishly. And remember, when we look at an opportunity for a relief rally, if you're an intraday trader, that's perfectly fine. Find those entries into that relief rally, but be careful here trying to jump into these morning gaps. Obviously, we've been punished here for a week straight on this pre-market pump, and what I think is honestly happening is we pre-market pump up in the market, and as long as the institutions can continue to convince people to jump in and buy first thing at the open, well, they have somebody to sell to, and then they're pushing it back down here on the day. So they seem to be relieving their accounts. We haven't seen another push from the CTAs to push us down, but we'll want to watch carefully. If we start breaking some of these areas of support, we can see the CTA systems out there, which are trend following. Obviously, our trends are not bullish at the moment. They could pile on and push us down with some big moves. I still think we're going to get a relief before that occurs, but watch that closely because it is still possible. So with that, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks so much for being here today. I truly, truly appreciate it. I want to wish you all the very best, and I'll see you right back here bright and early. Friday morning. Have a great one, everyone.